Excel Tips. My name is Neale Blackwood, and in this video, this is part one of a 3-part series on Python in Excel. So this is a brand new feature in Excel, and it allows you to use the Python programming language within a cell in Excel. Now, Python is a full-blown popular programming language. It's been around for a long time, and there's lots of resources on the internet on Python. And you'll also find that a lot of the AI agents around are really good at writing Python code as well. The series will start with the basics because this is brand new in Excel, so I need to explain a lot of new terminology and some techniques. The second part will look at some coding, and then the third part will look at some applications in Excel. So, Python in Excel, so we're actually looking at a Python cell where we'll come back and have a play with this. So this has 2 variables that we're capturing values, and then we're doing a calculation, and that's what's being displayed. So this is in cell A1. You'll notice that there's a PY in these square brackets, so that means it is a Python cell. Before we dive in any deeper, trivia question. What or who is Python named after? I'll let you know at the end of the video. Okay, so where does Python live in Excel? It's in the Formulas tab. That is the Python icon, so you can add that to your Quick Access toolbar. If you right-click, you can add it to your Quick Access toolbar, so it will appear on this toolbar here. So you can click that to insert a Python cell, so we can do that. When you do click that for the first time, it will open up the Python in Excel task pane on the right hand side. Feel free to use that. It's got lots of resources. You can see some of the documentation. There's a tour as well, so you can take that, as well as some examples here. So you can see that Python does work really well with data, and that's the main reason that it has been included in Excel, so it improves Excel's data handling. It's also got a lot of data visualization that you can use, so that's part of it. As you can see, there's lots of options there. We're not going to be going through those. You can check those out separately. We just need to get the basics under control. Okay, so Python cell, as you can see, it's got the PY on the side there, and you can start coding in the cell. I'm not going to do that at the moment. We'll just have a look at some other things. So the insert Python, there is an editor. So when you click the editor, it does show you all of the Python cells in the file, which we will get to. You can edit over here as well. I'm going to concentrate on just using the formula bar in these examples, but you do have access to this Python editor as well. Okay, so when should you use Python? So Python is not meant to replace Excel's formula and functions. Python's been included basically to extend Excel's functionality, mainly in the areas of data handling and data visualization. They can work hand in hand, and we'll see some examples of that as we go through the series. Hopefully, Python is going to offer some solutions to things that are really hard in Excel, and Python might make them a little bit easier. So one thing you need to know is how Python works. So Python in Excel is using the internet. So as well as the insert Python icon on the formulas tab, you also need an internet connection. And the way Python works is the code you write in the cell, when you accept that, it goes to the online Azure database in Microsoft, and the code is run in a container in Azure, and then the result comes back. So you're actually talking to the internet to run this. Now what that means is that everyone in the world is using the same version of Python because everyone is talking to that same Azure database. There is a quota involved. So there is free use of Python in Excel up to a quota. Once you hit that quota, then your speed will slow down, and there is also a second quota which will block your code. So just a heads up on that. So you have a free use of fairly fast access. Then you have a usage of what I call standard access, and then there is a blocking mechanism. So just be aware that there are some limitations on using Python at the moment. You can pay for the faster version with a monthly or annual payment to Microsoft as well. So just be aware of those. Now, the way you enter code in Python, let's see how we do it. Okay, so let's enter this code here. So I'll delete that. So we saw the connection message there, and you will get a few different messages pop up like busy, connect, and things like that. So just keep an eye out for those. They are new. And again, that's related to talking across the internet. So to create a Python cell, typing equals py and then the tab key. And I'm going to type GST equals 0.1. Now, when I hit enter, it actually gives me a line break within the Python cell. Now, that only happens in Python cells. Normally, in a formula, when you hit enter, it's going to accept the code. But with a Python cell, it's just going to give you a new line. New lines are important in Python code. It's part of how the program is set up. So we're going to do another line here, and we'll say sales equals 1,000, another new line. And then I can do a calculation. So I can multiply the sales value by 1 plus the GST. Okay, so doing just a simple calculation there. And so when I hit Control Enter, and remember, if I hit Enter, I'll get a new line. So I've got to hold Control and press the Enter, and I get a busy message, and then the value displays. That's a very simple example of using Python code in a cell. I'll just mention also about the formula bar. So I've actually increased the size of the font on my formula bar. That's because my eyesight's not perfect, and it just makes it easier to see things. You might want to change the height. So there is a keyboard shortcut. Control-Shift-U will hide it and unhide it. So it's a toggle, so you can just press it, Control, Shift, and the U. There's also the little icon on the far right-hand side here. You can click that and click that. So you can see the entries there. Just a note, whilst we've got these task panes open at the moment, you can have multiple task panes open at once. You'll notice that I've got some different icons here. That's the Python one. This one here is the editor. So you can, what I mentioned earlier, you can do your coding in the editor as well. There's a few more things around it here. I've been just playing around in the formula bar with Python at the moment. I haven't graduated to using the Python editor yet. Dependencies. So when you create variables in Python cells, they're available throughout the file, but there is a dependency involved. So because I'm on the first sheet and I'm in cell A1, I can use these two variables or access these two variables, GST and sales, anywhere in this file. Okay, so it's a left to right, top down dependency. So I can go into another cell and type equals py, tab, and if I type in GST, then I will get the 0.1, Control Enter, I will get the 0.1 which I set the GST to in the very first cell. And I can do that in any other Python cell. As you can see here, I've gone to another sheet, and there's the Python cell with GST, and it's displaying 0.1. So you can use the first sheet to set up a lot of variables. It's called initialization. So you might want to use the INIT abbreviation, which is short for initialization. And maybe when you are using Python, you'll have an INIT sheet as the first sheet, and so you can set everything up there. That's the dependency, so you can use the variables throughout the file. It's a little bit like range names, except there is that dependency structure. So if you set up a variable in column C, you can't access it in column A. So that's the dependency. So top down, left to right in the sheet, and it's left to right in all of the sheets. We can do text manipulation as well. So here's an example here where we've used a variable to capture John, another variable to capture Smith, and so let's have a look at this. This is some of the stuff that's built in. So we can capture that first and last combination, and note it's using the plus symbol. So the plus symbol can do calculations as well as combining strings. Now in Excel we use the ampersand symbol, but in Python you can use the plus symbol to add numbers together, and you can use the plus symbol to add text together. And so this is combining the first and last together to give us John Smith. And then there is a function that allows you to show this in the title case, which is Python's way of saying the proper case. So you'll notice that John and Smith are both in lowercase, but this is displaying as capital J and capital S, and that's because of this title. If I get rid of that, and I can just do the initial name there, you'll see it'll come in as it was entered in lowercase. And then we can capture that text string with the brackets, and when we go .t, you'll notice that the IntelliSense works. So it does give you suggestions, so I can use title, and we just need the opening and closing brackets there. So that converts the lowercase John and lowercase Smith and puts the capital letter there. And again, Ctrl Enter, and there we go. So there's the John Smith. So that's the type of thing that you've got access to in Python. It's built into Python to do that. When you are calculating in Python, the cells are calculating, and that is using up your quota. When you are developing in your Python code, you might want to turn off calculation for Python. So to do that, in the Formulas tab, under Calculations, there's a newly named partial. This used to have a different name in the old days, which is like 2 years ago, and it was associated with data tables in Excel, which is a whole nother topic, but now they've changed this to partial. Manual means that there's no calculation done. Automatic means all the calculations are done. Partial means that data tables and Python are not calculated when you choose partial. So that's under calculation options. So if you're developing and you don't want to calculate all of the Python cells, you can turn them off by using that, and that won't use your quota. So that's something to think about if you do start hitting the quota levels. Now you can refer to cells in Python. So, and this is part of the power that you'll be able to still use your Excel references and then bring them into Python and then do calculations. So let's do that. So equals py tab. When you click on a cell, Excel automatically inserts this function. So the Excel function in Python is extracting from, in this case, A1, and then we can go plus, and then click on another cell, and it puts the Excel around that. And again, so we're grabbing the values there. So again, Control Enter, and then that will do the calculation. All of the standard calculations are there, so plus, minus, divide, it's all the same as you're used to in Excel. Now, in terms of working with ranges, we can do the same thing. So in this case here, I've referred to a range, and again we just go equals py tab, select the range. Quick way to select the range is Control Shift down, and that selects that, and as you can see that enters it. And let's say we want to multiply by the 10%. So again, Control Enter to accept that. So when you're referring to a range of cells, Python is going to use something called pandas. Now, I haven't talked about pandas yet, I will in the second and the third articles, but basically Pandas is an external library that you have access to because it's loaded when Python is loaded, and it is how you interact with data sets. And now when you've got a list or a table, then it's going to use a data frame to work with that. When you first create it, it doesn't display the whole data frame. It just tells you that there is a data frame. And so if you want to see what the result is, you click on the left-hand side of the PY here, and you can see the Excel value. So at the moment, what we're looking at is what's called the Python object, which is that data frame. And then you can say Excel value, and that will show you the result. So we can see that that's returning the entries. Now, if you have the Python object and you want to see what it looks like, or get a feel for what it looks like, you can actually click this Python item here and it will give you a visual on that. Something I didn't include that in the article, and also something I didn't do, is if you type in equals E2, which is the cell that has the Python, you'll notice that there's some options that pop up. So when you go the dot, you can have a preview. So E2 dot array preview, and that gives you the first 5. It's not, if we open that up a bit, it's got the first 5 rows and the last 5 rows. So it's a preview, it's a spill range. These numbers actually represent the row numbers. Now, something to consider is that Python starts all of its row numbering at 0. So just a heads up. So the first row is always 0. And then 1, 2, and then we can see the last ones as well. It puts these dots to separate them. So you're seeing the first 5 and the last 5. And that's using this array preview. Because we don't have a heading, it's got this 0 here. So there's no heading for this, we just use the data. So again, this is something that's built into Excel to allow you to see Python and what it's working with. That's a brief introduction into Python. Hopefully that's given you a taste of what's available. The second and third in the series will expand on what we've learned here and show you some of the really cool stuff that Python can do. Oh, by the way, the answer to the trivia question. Python is named after Monty Python, the English comedy team. So there you go. Okay, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed learning about Python, and stay tuned for part 2 and part 3.